All right, guys, we're going to do rapid fire here again. We are going to switch our order real quick because Andrew's got a flight that got canceled and he's getting things rearranged here. So we're going to put him first in this order. So Andrew, get up. Did we get the Josh?
Check.
The deck changed?
There we go. It's saying we're good.
All right.
Sometimes when you fly into Omaha, these flights are tough with Southwest, but it's okay. Don't regret coming. Love coming here. So, really do.
Don't fly Southwest.
Don't fly Southwest. Vince is going to start putting me on private. Where's Chris Kelly? Where's that private jet? NetJets.
I hate Southwest.
All right, so 10 minutes. Okay, I'm going to go through these things. It's kind of tough to get through them in 10 minutes, but I'm trying to provide some value to you. We talked a little bit about systems earlier. Not really my specialty, forte. I'm learning and growing with that, but there's 3 things that everybody needs to have. And if you can't do these 3 things well, I feel like you're really you shouldn't be focused on anything else, okay? And here's what they are. I'll give them to you real quick. You have to have a home selling system, buying system, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how to follow up with your property. But we'll do the selling one first. Your job as an agent, right? This business is so simple. It's just not that complicated. You work with sellers. You work with buyers. Do you have a system for that? Let's forget the framework and accountability. This is your personal agent system that when you're talking to someone who might be interested in selling their home, are you so dialed in that you can articulate the exact value proposition you drive home with a home seller? Not necessarily just in the listing appointment, but when you're on the football field or at your kid's soccer game or you're at the bar and someone says, I'm thinking about selling my house. Are you taking that opportunity down? Because you're unconsciously competent about what you do in a systemized fashion, that you can explain this to somebody and they'd say, wow, that's the guy that's going to maximize my equity. Because that's what your job is. Your job's not to sell the house. We're talking about home selling system now. Your job is not to sell the house. See, I believe a lot of agents don't know what their job is. Anyone can sell the house. Quick buy can buy the house. Investors can buy the house. Your job is to maximize their equity. Do you have a system and process to help a seller maximize their equity? I'm going to hit a couple bullet points on this. I've given many talks here before on just hour on this. But how do you help somebody prepare their house for sale? Do you have a system for that? You say, I got an electrician. Yeah, we can fix that. No, you have to have a system where you're going to find asymmetric risk reward for them. Hey, I always tell sellers, we don't spend $1 unless we're getting 3 back. I have the best contractors that the national builders use. We're going to get great quality at the lowest price. That's one component of value I bring to the relationship. Now let's talk about getting the proper photos and videos for your house. See, our job is, I like to do 3-dimensional storytelling. These are all systemized little frameworks. 3-dimensional storytelling, right, Bob? Who's that come from? Alan. God bless him. 3-dimensional storytelling, which is, hey, I need to get some homeowner insights from you with my local knowledge. We're going to use AI. We're going to create a compelling narrative around this property to contextualize the value of this home. Because you know what? When we make a video, when I show up here and make it look like Bravo TV comes to Baltimore in your neighborhood and we're showing off this property, we want to showcase things that they're not going to see on the pictures. And we're going to take that content. Next step in the system is, how do you distribute this compelling content? Well, we do buyer profile demographic targeting. So we know the buyer for your house is probably going to be between the ages of 28 and 42, living in a 15-mile radius, making $200K. You're telling a seller this, they're going, oh shit, you think other agents are saying that? They're not. We're going to distribute this content to the public, and we're going to target the agents most likely to be working with buyers. This is way before we get on the markets. Now we're prep, compelling content distribution. Now let's talk about coming soon. A lot of agents are lazy. And now this is where you might bake in showcase. I think I'm going to bake in showcase here. When we go coming soon, we're going to have our full spread out there. We're going to get a lot of exposure and not rack up any days on market. Okay, then we go active. And that's what this looks like. And then this is what our open house system is. And this is how we're going to negotiate the offer. And this is how we're going to handle the inspection, the appraisal, the closing, the post-closing. Your job is to effectively manage the entire real estate ecosystem. Every one of these bullet points for a seller, you need to be compelling on this. You need to be providing value, because anyone can put the house on the market. And if you're competing, which some of us don't compete, you're listing your friends' houses, your sphere, your referrals, it doesn't matter, because all the things you can do, the tchotchkes, the pop-bys, the top-of-mind stuff, we've heard a lot of good ideas. All that stuff's good. But to go back to Chris's point, it's how you make them feel. And I don't need them to like me. I don't need them to be my best friend. I don't need to bring them pies on Thanksgiving, but I want them to feel that guy is going to make me money. And if you can make people feel like that, they'll refer you all the time. You're like, hey, this guy golfs a lot. This guy's arrogant. This guy drives a Tesla. But he'll make you the most money. If you were going to a doctor, do you really care, or do you want the guy who's going to perform the best surgery? If you think the attorney's an asshole, but he's going to win in court, that's the guy you want. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a jerk. You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic. You have to, have empathy. But if you don't have a system that you're so dialed in when you're talking to a seller, I think you're missing the boat. Because when you get so good at this, you start doing the things, the behaviors that are going to lead you to get more of these opportunities. Because some of us, sometimes we shy away. I don't want to call expireds. I don't want to get any more opportunities because you're afraid. Some people, you're afraid of your own success, but this is how you do it. You have a system for selling. Now, it's the same thing for buying. This was a big, big topic recently. Oh, my God, NAR lawsuit. And every coach, all you heard was, hey, we have to find a way to bring buyers more value if we're going to, get these fees. That's all everyone said, but no one talked about how to bring the buyer more value. How many of you heard that? Hey, we have to showcase more value on the buy side. That's all anyone was talking about. No one told you how to do it. They just said showcase more value and left it at that. Well, no shit. So Jimmy and I did a YouTube. You can find it if you type in Jimmy Burgess, Andrew Undem, buyer. It went viral on YouTube. 80,000 views, 1 million minutes watched. LA Times called me about that and tried to get me. Hey, when you said the fee was 2.5, I mean, is that fixed? Is all weird stuff. But anyway, it was compelling. A lot of people like that. And this is also critical. Do you have a system for working with buyers? How do you provide value to a buyer? So I'm going to give you a couple bullet points maybe you're doing, maybe you might implement this. Starts with pre-approval. Everyone says, oh, you got to get pre-approved. Talk to my lender. Weak. Not a lot of value there. It's what everyone else does. You know what I say? I say, in order to properly, my job is to help you save money at every turn throughout this process, effectively managing the real estate ecosystem. One of the things we're going to do here is we're going to hook you up with a mortgage person. We're going to get a full pre-approval, understand our purchasing power, and then we're going to find a way to shop the rate. And one thing I do for all my buyers is I guarantee them I'll get them the lowest interest rate. Or I'll find a program if it's available. Or we're going to get a tax credit. And you know what? Banks are different than credit unions. They're different than mortgage brokers. And every situation's a little bit different. So that's one of the components of value I'm going to bring this relationship. And you know what? Lenders hate it when you do this to them. You shop them. I'll be the bad guy. I'm going to help you do this. I will drive your costs down. And I'll show you how to do it. And I have a systemized, methodical way to do this. Oh, they like that. 2, you're looking at the inventory. One thing I always want my buyers to feel is I want them to understand the market almost better than most of the listing agents. Market dynamics are very important. It's just a relationship between active, pending, and sold. So you guys already know this, but are you saying it to a buyer to make them feel that's my guy, right? I want to understand the relationship between the actives, pendings, and sold. So we're going to go through that. 2, inventory. How are you shopping for homes now? I'm on Zillow. I'm on Realtor.com. It doesn't matter what they say. That's awesome. You can keep doing that. One thing I like to do is unlock other inventory that's not available to the public. Did you know most of these new home construction communities, they list one house, but they got 50? Do you know what you're not going to see in the MLS? All the homes that people tried to sell, but they're not active anymore. Those people still want to sell. Those are called expireds, withdrawals, canceled, whatever your MLS says. And you just see, this is simple stuff. You know this stuff, but are you explaining it to a buyer so they feel, wow, that's value? Right. And right down the line, I could spend all day on this, but I only got 10. Do I have another minute?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So the home, and this goes right down through every piece of that transaction. I only covered the first couple, but I have a system for this. I have a beautiful book. I have a training manual of how you set the frame, how you show flow demo some value, and how you transition to the next point. Very critical. Show flow demo. Every point, everything you do, you have to show, flow, or demo some compelling point of value, and you move on. If you do this right, those buyers, they'll follow you around. That's your guide. That's how you get referrals. That's how you do it. Stuff money in people's pockets. And lastly, I already talked about this in my last session. If you don't have a system, so here's the 3 things you need. You need to know how to work with the seller, and you need to know how to work with the buyer, and that's where you need to up your game. Everyone can do it. Every agent can do it. A new licensee can do it. But how good are you at doing it? You need to do it differently. You need to do it better. They need to feel like you're the guy who's going to help them at a different level. A different level. And then you have to have a system where you're actually going to follow up with these people, because this is where you're going to lose money. And that's the worst thing you can do. Even if you're purely referral, you need to know exactly where these people are, how to best serve them. It's not about you, it's about them. How can I help you? I want to get you the lowest interest rate. I want to get you the most exposure. I want to get you the most offers. I want to educate you on the market. And if you do that with buyers and sellers, and you're confident, what you'll realize is people don't even need to believe what you're saying. They need to believe you believe what you're saying. So you got to practice that. If you're wishy-washy, they're wishy-washy. Certainty is a superpower. All right, 10 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, buddy.
Mr. Mark, introduce yourself and roll.
Yeah, Mark Brace, Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm going to step out of real estate for just a second. I'm going to talk about something that a lot of people may not have a level of awareness around. And I believe that if I can get a couple people in this room to bring a level of awareness to this, it might change their lives. And this has been one of the most impactful things that I unpacked early in my career. And I hope that I can change some people in here today. So I'm going to start with a quote from Jim Rohn. Work on your job and you'll make a living. And that's what we've been talking about the entire time we've been here. We've been just working on our job, how to be better, systems, tools. You know, if I could be as good of a real estate agent as Andrew, I mean, I would probably sell as much as him. But I mean, he is dialed in on his job. But if you work on yourself, that's where you make the fortune. When you are centered and you don't bring any overlays of yourself to any interaction, everyone feels that. And that's where you make the fortune. So I'm going to talk a little bit about working on yourself. I got the clicker. So I'm going to talk specifically about limiting beliefs. Who here has limiting beliefs? Okay, maybe about 20% of you. Okay.
No need to do the speech.
Yeah. No. Right? So I'm going to also talk about what they are, what causes them, and can we change them? So what a limiting belief is, it's a belief that you have that you do not know that is holding you back from things that you may want in life. Have you ever heard people say that they want this, want that, and they never get it? They always say they want, but there's an underlying subconscious belief or series of beliefs or programming that is holding them back. Usually it's rooted in fear, doubt, or other past experiences. Usually sounds like I'm not good enough. I'm not good at that. I can't do what Andrew does. He's got all those systems. That's overwhelming to me. And it's not meant for people like me, or I'm not good with numbers. If you ever find yourself saying, I can't, I'm not, that's not for me, anything ever, that's a limiting belief. A prime example of somebody who has broken all limiting beliefs would be Elon Musk. He has no limiting beliefs. He has worked through them all, which I think is awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about the psychology behind limiting beliefs. They're typically formed in childhood, your environment, past failures, things you've tried. I just tried it. I failed. I'm done. I'm not good at that. And this is why people surround themselves with the success of the 5 closest people you surround yourself with, because they help control your beliefs. Your environment controls your beliefs. Why do you think Omaha is so darn successful? They've got a leader here that shatters their belief structures daily. And all of the agents see what other agents are doing and going, I can do that. I'm no longer setting my belief and I can't do that. So repeated thoughts that become ingrained truth, you keep telling yourself, and so you start believing yourself, and it's all done subconsciously. That subconscious mind runs our life. It's 90% of every action we do every day. When you're driving home from work or something and you miss an exit and you're like, I don't know who's driving the car. That's your subconscious mind. The only time you actually drive is when you're passing a semi-truck in rain. You're like, oh. But every other time you're driving, you're like, I know what a red light is. You're not thinking about it. You stop. So very often, they're really not your own beliefs. This is the crazy part. They were given to you from someone else who had that belief. that was given to them from someone else who had that belief, and it's just passed down. And that's why certain families have these hierarchies of like limiting beliefs that, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like I loved Greg's speech yesterday where, he said, I came from an unsuccessful family in an unsuccessful town with unsuccessful stuff all around me. And then I found some information and broke through. It's Tony Robbins, at least what he said. I'm sure he did all the work, but he tackled his limiting beliefs that he was fed. So the process, there is a way to get rid of your limiting beliefs. And one of my first coaches in real estate walked me through this process, and I didn't even know what he was doing. He would identify these things that, he just actually went through like common limiting beliefs of real estate agents, and then just worked through the process and just made me go through the process. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah. I guess there are other idiots listing luxury houses, and so I could do that. And once you start breaking down limiting beliefs, you get insane success. Now, the superpower of this process is it doesn't apply to just real estate. It is absolutely everything in your entire life. Absolutely everything. I'm not good with women, or I'm not good at this sport, or whatever. There's a reason why people are great at what they do is they practice. Like Mahomes, Tom Brady, they probably practice more than any other NFL athlete, and they worked on it. And so, we at what we see now at the end of their career, we're like, oh, they're just amazing. When they started, they didn't know how to play football. So, all right, the process to overcoming a belief, you have to identify it. You have to catch yourself saying, oh, I'm not good at this. Or, you find a situation where you feel uncomfortable. You're like, oh, wow, that was weird. I felt uncomfortable. Maybe I got to figure out why I felt uncomfortable. And so once you kind of identify, how am I doing on time?
3 minutes.
Okay. All right. So, and then you have to challenge that belief. You have to, objectively, is it true? Ask, why do I believe this? Why do I feel uncomfortable? And then gather evidence to suggest that it's false. Like, oh, other people aren't uncomfortable in this situation. Why am I? Like, why do I believe this? And then you need to replace it with empowering beliefs. And so you write down the opposite statement. You have to write it down. This is a neurological process. I don't know if any of you know about NLP. How many people in here have heard of NLP? All right, cool, great. Neuro-linguistic processing or neuro-linguistic programming. So what that is the way to reprogram yourself with any belief is you have to say it out loud, write it down, and repeat that process so that your subconscious hears it. And that is the only way to reprogram yourself. And you can do it. If you are repetitive and reprogram yourself and you say things out loud, your subconscious hears it. So if anyone asks me how I'm doing, I'm awesome. Like, truly, I'm awesome. But it's because I always say it. I'm awesome. So I'm awesome. And so you write down the opposite statement. You have to say it out loud, and you have to envision it to be true, and then you reinforce it with action and repetition. And there's a lot of science behind 63 days. Before it was told to be 30, but it's really 3 21-day periods in a row, which is why it's hard to break habits. It's hard to get to the gym. You do it for 30 days and then you're like, oh, I can't do it anymore. Whatever. 63 days. So if you are intent on changing anything in your life, whether it's real estate or other things, this is the process to do it. You can change anything in your life with this. So common limiting beliefs for realtors. I'm going to blast through this. I know the slides are going to be sent out, but common limiting beliefs for realtors specifically. I'm not good at prospecting. There's too many agents in my market or in my area. High-end homes are out of my league. I'm not a natural salesperson, so I can't be successful. The market's too slow right now. There's no point to trying. These are limiting beliefs. So I did put some of these in the slides. I'll just go through a couple of these really, really fast. So market's too slow right now. There's no point in trying now. I hate being on camera and social media. Identify, clearly you guys probably hate being on camera. You don't want to do Instagram reels or live updates. The challenge is do clients actually care how perfect I look? Or do they want that real connection that Chris Kelly was talking about? Like, they want that relation. They want your authentic person. So, replace it with my authentic presence builds trust. I do not need to be perfect because everyone knows you as who you are. Being on camera is no different. So you're going to want to reinforce it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. People won't trust me because I'm new. New agents should read that in the slides. Luxury homes are out of my league. This is a great one. I reprogrammed some of my new agents that got into the business that are like, I can't, I get really nervous in $1 million homes and stuff. So, what does it look like? Avoiding luxury, not attending luxury events, not, putting yourself in the environment. You're feeling unqualified and underwhelmed. You identify that, you recognize and assume that price tag does not define your capability. I'm not an experienced enough to work with $1 million clients, whatever. So you challenge that with like, are luxury clients just people with homes? What do they actually want from their agent? What strengths do you bring? You know what? Maybe because I'm new, I'm going to be able to be more highly communicative. I'm going to be faster to respond to them. I'm going to work harder for you than any other agent you're going to talk to. But you figure out where your strengths are. And you replace it with, I am capable of serving clients at a high price point with professionalism care. Luxury is about trust, not just money. I think blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you guys are going to get all these slides. So I've done this exact limiting belief with several of my agents in the past. And what's crazy is within weeks of sitting down one-on-one and making them go through it, because I can't tell anybody what to do. You guys this is something you have to do. No one in the world will do this for you. And you're the most important person in the world to yourself, okay? So you owe it to yourself to fix some of this stuff. And within weeks of doing this, all of my clients sold or listed a high-end property, or all of my agents that I work through this with. I don't have enough connections to succeed, whatever. I'm not good at prospecting. These are all great ones. So again, you just have to do that process where you identify, I forget all of them. We'll go back. So identify, challenge your beliefs, replace it with empowering beliefs, and then reinforce it. So you just have to go through that process, and you're going to be able to overcome anything. So affirm it, journal it, and agents who overcome limiting beliefs are the ones that have breakthroughs. They're the ones that take it from I'm a real estate agent to I'm killing it. So I don't know if Iris Lobo's in here, but I'm sure she went through breaking limiting beliefs. And I was very excited to hear her story yesterday. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Melissa, tell us what you got.
Well, first of all, I'm grateful to be here, and after these people, I don't even know how to do slides.
You guys, okay, hold that up, I guess. Is that on? Is it on? You're still not hearing it?
I don't know how to work it. Okay.
There we are. Thank you.
First of all, I usually do. I'm better with Q&A, so if I start stuttering, just ask me a question.
I will.
And it could be anything. I may not answer it honestly, but just ask it. So
because I have limiting beliefs.
No. And Mark, that was great. And to touch on that, and I'm going to talk about how to be authentic and really bring who you are into what you do to be successful. And, I've tried to do that my whole career, but my mother was a great realtor, and I learned from her. And when I was 5 years old, she decided she wanted to be a realtor. So she helped me learn how to read by reading her from questions and answers of real estate to pass a real estate exam. And that was my first introduction. After that, I was the youngest of five. Four of us are realtors, by the way, but I was the youngest of five. So I would ride with her when she remembered to pick me up from school. And I was in the back seat. And so, fast forward to, working for her, it was amazing because I must have retained a little bit, although I didn't do real well in the beginning. But my mother was a great mentor, and she taught us that And actually, I tell these stories to clients. So that's one thing I'll tell you is when I go on a listing presentation, and I do think I'll preface everything by saying there are many ways to be successful. Find the way that's good for you. The way I do it wouldn't be the way Mark might do it. There are people who focus on different things. This works for me and I'm comfortable with it, but there are other ways to do it. So I tell my story in a listing appointment. I talk about my mother a lot. I have literature that talks about my whole family being realtors. And I work in the city I grew up in, and so I have a lot of connection there, and I'm very involved in the community, and that helps. My mother had some great sayings. One, and I'm going to share this with you, you could use it next time. She said, can't never did anything. And she said it in a more southern way, but I'm trying to be articulate here. But and to tell you the story, to emphasize, one of my clients gave me that frame for Christmas last year because I must have told her that story and she knew it was important to me. So I think sharing a little bit of yourself is important to people because it helps them get to know you. But also my mother had another saying. She said, this is not a sales job, this is a service. You know how important our home is to us. We have our best times. It's a sanctuary when we're having a bad day. And so that's what you're helping people with. You're not helping them buy a car. She said, learn how to sell the city, but definitely you need to know this is a service. And so that was beat into me from the time I was 5 years old. So I obviously I'm not focused on anything but providing good service. And the things that you pick up on, the clients really know that. They know that you care about them, and that's what gets me the most referrals, and that's what's built my business because I'm known for that more than anything. So a couple of other things I'll tell you when you go. For me, I feel like it's everything from what you wear to what you do. You have to be comfortable in your own skin. You have to know, but yet I also, and I loved what Megan Sullivan said yesterday. Also, if I'm working with someone who's a CEO, I'll dress a certain way to make them comfortable as long as I'm comfortable. But then if I'm working with first-time home buyers and they come in, I won't dress that poorly.
You're not going to dress as bad as me.
Well, no, listen, I do, but it's with different people. We'll talk about that later. But the thing is, I kind of adjust to who I'm working with, almost like dress for the job you want. So, the things that, as far as social media, and if you want to follow my YouTube, I would really appreciate it. And you can check out these videos and copy them if you like them. That's what I said yesterday is I find it flattering if anybody likes my social media, unless you live in Greensboro, North Carolina. And then I really don't care. I find it flattering too because we'll come up with some new ideas. But what I do in that is I don't tour a lot of houses in my videos. I really do more community things. I do tours of Greensboro where they put cameras on my car and I've got someone riding with me. And I try and I don't know if you think I'm funny or not.
You are.
I mean, but the key,
I don't even know if you try to be funny, but you are.
Well, the key to humor is sometimes you've got to show them that you know what you're doing before you're too funny. And that's the truth, because then they're thinking, is she just going to joke around with me all day? Does she know what her interest rate is or whatever? Which honestly I never do. If someone asks me what her interest rate is, I'm like, I don't know, but I'm pulling it on ChatGPT. But the thing is I do sometimes I have to say, I know you think I'm funny, but I do know what I'm doing, honestly. And it's okay to say that because but the truth is, when I have when I'm riding around, I'm gonna tell a story. This is fun. I worked with a couple and they had 4 kids, and we looked at 12 to 15 houses 2 weeks ago in this extreme heat, and it was unbelievably hot. And we looked at all these houses, and they were so fascinated with a toilet in one of the houses. It's one of those nice ones where the lid opens when you walk in the room. It scared me, but I thought, okay. And so I hadn't had a chance to joke around or anything because it was really a grueling day. And so the next house, I noticed the kids were like, no, we don't like this. And the parents said, well, I wonder what it is. They loved that last house. And I said, well, the toilets aren't competitive in this. And that's all they talk about when I call them on the phone. They bought one, but and they bought one. I said, do you think they're going to be okay with these toilets? Because they're not nice. We'll have to see. But that's the kind of thing. When you're helping someone buy a house, and it is the most important thing, and of course I do listings too, actually more probably, but But you have to really make it easy on them and make them enjoy the process. And what I've taken so much from this conference, because I've heard people talk about their first realtor and how that was, and whether it was good or not. And so that shows you that even people as a child, they remember who helped them. Most of the kids think I'm going to live with them, which is kind of fun. But and sometimes I might. It just depends on the family, really. But the other, so to finish up, because I know that I have only 10 minutes, and that breaks my heart, is that go on my social media, check out my dog Macy Gray. If you have a dog or you have anything like that, I can put the nicest house in the nation on my social media. But if I put her, she gets more likes. And I get clients who call me because they know I love dogs and they love dogs. So I think anything you can share about yourself is so important to being successful and authentic. Is that good?
Let's give her a great hand. It makes me think of something I try to say on a regular basis is, guys, we do have the job and the burden and the responsibility to make this an easy, simple, stress-free, enjoyable transaction. This should not be just crazy, psychotic anxiety for our clients. Why do we not make this enjoyable? Because if we make it enjoyable, man, they're going to be raving fans. They're probably going to be friends. And so I love it. Thank you. And you are funny. Shelli, introduce yourself and chat.
Right. Okay, my name is Shelli Klemke, and I am here in Omaha. And my topic is work and balance, which I know balance is always hard to find, and it's always changing. I started this business 17 years ago before I had children, and my boys are now 16 and 12. 16 and 13, just had a birthday. So balance has changed, and how I have had to balance has changed. When I first started in the business, I specifically remember this one day, and I was staring at the phone, and I was like, somebody just call me. Just call me. I want to sell a house. Somebody call me. And then you learn, it's like, you have to be calling them, and there's this whole process, right? And at the beginning, I would hustle. I would do anything I could, anything I needed to get the deal. And so that started in a pattern of, oh, you want to see a house, at 6 o'clock at night? Great, I'll be there. You want to see a house at 7:30 at night? Sure, yeah, I'll do it. And then, you start getting burnt out, right? And things start changing with how you live your life, and home life can change when you decide that you're going to put priority over your client that wants to see something at night or wants to be somewhere at night. And so I had to adjust and learn, and this is a learned behavior. And so that's what I would say too, is balance is something you have to define and then realize, okay, how can I accomplish that? So one of the things for me was defining balance with my kids. And so we started this tradition, and Vince has heard me talk about this before, but we sit down as a family, and when they were little, I had to explain, okay, why am I not going to be able to pick you up today from school? Why is somebody else going to be picking you up today from school? That is because what I'm doing is going to produce a life for us where you get to pick where we're going to go on vacation, or you get to pick what toy you want, or, taking what I do and translating it into what they see and what they feel from me. So we started doing these dream boards, and we started doing these now they're dream vacations. Again, this has transpired over time, but we had to define our why. And so my why is my kids, but it's not just my kids. So now that they're older, my why is taking my kids to different parts of the world. That's my why. Maybe your why is, I really want to have an RV. That was one of the girls on my team. Her why is, I want to have an RV for my family. Maybe your why is, I want to be able to have horses. Your why is something different, and everyone's is different. And what I would always tell people is, share your why. Your why doesn't become something until you start explaining what it is to other people, and then you start believing in that passion too. So I'll share this story because that's my current why. But it sounds extreme, but now that I've said it so many times and I've talked about it so often, it's not extreme to me anymore. So when we go on vacation, which we do several times, we take vacations, especially John and I, but when we do it as our family of 4, we put anywhere in the world, anywhere you can dream of, and we put it into a hat. And one night on vacation, we just have this feeling where we're like, tonight's the night. Let's have tonight be the night. And we have our waiter, or we have somebody, that we feel really connected with, draw it out. And wherever they draw out, that's where we're going next. And so it's turned into this really fun, all year around, we talk about, what are you going to put in the bucket? What are you going to put in the hat? And it's just, we have all these discussions, and it really makes me have to work hard, because I know I'm going to have to go pay for these plane tickets, and so it is my why. And when I don't want to do things, it's my dream board up there of all these places we've been, and that has really helped me, kind of figure out, okay, how am I going to balance out so my kids understand? And the second part of this is balancing out the actual hours you're working. And again, explaining, in my case, my kids, or explaining it to your spouse, or explaining it to your parents, or explain it to anybody that you feel needs justification. But it's finding the hours. So what it is for me currently is, when my kids are in school, I am working. When my kids are not in school, I'm doing everything in my power to not be working. Are there exceptions? Of course. But that is my goal every day, is to be really efficient when they're gone. And so efficiency means you have to know what you're walking into that day. So I have to write down my list the night before. Sometimes it's in the morning, but I got to know exactly what I'm doing, because I'm going to be home at 3:30. And so when a client says, can you show me that house, or can we have a listing appointment at, I hear agents say, oh, I could do it at 5 o'clock tonight. How about changing that? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, would you have 11 a.m. or 1 o'clock available? Because guess what? Everyone has a lunch break. Everyone can sneak home for a little bit. And if I can do 11 and 1, I can be home by 3:30. So that is something that has changed of how I operate and how I do business. Does it work all the time? Of course not. But it works the majority of the time, and that's good enough for me, and that's good enough for my kids. And then I have world's best assistant. I get emotional because she's so special to me, but she really is somebody that I hired as somebody that was very, very green. And if you were to see her now, she has turned into a tremendous agent and a tremendous human. And I would say that when you find somebody to be an assistant, you have got to know what you're looking for, because you have to treat them like you would treat your family, and they will stick around. You have to listen to what their goals are. You have to listen to what their balance needs are, and you have to pay them. And you have to pay them to want to stay, but you have to pay them to do what you don't want to do. And so I can travel around the world with my kids, because my assistant knows she will do what I need, and I'm paying her to do it, and she wants to stick around. And that's a really big part of balance. You got to have somebody that you can trust while you are gone, because if you're not traveling, you're going to hate this job in a year, right? So you got to be able to not work all of the time. Again, this is a learned thing, but do your dream boards. Tell the people what you want. Make sure your family understands why you're working, and get a really good assistant.
I love dream boards, and we do those in our mastermind groups every couple of years or so. And about 50% of the people never want to do them. The other half are happy to do them. But almost without exception, once they've been done, 90% of the people are glad they did them. And I love when you do it, all of a sudden you're doing it at home, have your family do it with you, or have your team do it with you, and it starts putting you all on the same page. But what happens with dream boards when you share them with the mastermind groups is you get to know each other on a more personal level, not just a business level. You connect, you find out shit people are going through you didn't know. If I have 15 people, there's going to be 4 people that are going to cry. I mean, that just 30%, 25-30% of the people are going to get emotional about these type of things. But it allows you to start connecting. But there's scientific proof. I just heard it in the last couple speeches. When you write down things and look at them daily, and when you have dream boards, put the dream board somewhere where it's visual, that you see it every day. There's scientific proof that you're going to be much more likely to accomplish those goals or their dreams when you do them. So I love it. Appreciate it. Wrap us up here, Diane. Who are you? Where are you from? And what are you talking about?
I'm
Let's go.
Diane Hughes. I'm here in Omaha, and I have a little tiny team called the Agency Group. There's only 3 realtors. I have to stand up because I don't bend, so I can't see.
You can stand up.
I have a totally metal spine, so I'm a little awkward. But today is actually my 20-year anniversary of having my spine reconstructed and having a near-death experience and all that other fun stuff. So it's kind of surreal to see,
Well, we're
how
glad
your
to have
life
you
can
here.
change. I did a totally different business. I used to run shopping malls around the country for a lot of names, Simon, General Growth, Rouse. Had to have my spine reconstructed when my daughter was 15 months old. Didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I thought I just lost the coolest job ever because it was the second coolest job I've ever had. Got to travel to Mexico a lot. It was in San Antonio. If any of you know there, I used to run the shops at La Cantera and North Star Mall. Did a lot of tenant development. And so I had a lot of knowledge about what makes people buy things and pay more for something in a different space. Like, we've all done it. You're in a really beautiful shop, and you pay way more than you could have gotten it on Amazon or a local strip center or something like that. So when I found myself kind of going into this part of real estate, I wanted to add something of value. I had a bad experience when I bought a house while my husband was deployed right after that surgery when I came back to Omaha, and wanted to do it different, and I wanted to change the way people thought of what a realtor does. And you said something about show them, don't tell them. And what this does is gives you the opportunity to show them, not tell them. And this will enable you to get strong commission because you're proving your value. I believe it works. It's a lot about the psychology of why people buy. And now with Zillow, you can't even get people to a house if the pictures are bad. So just getting them to come into the house and visit and do all those things, I think is just huge. So this is a before picture. This is a house I listed last Thursday night. This is a before picture, and you're probably thinking like, there's nothing wrong with it. It looks like most houses in Omaha. But we know the seller did not want to change anything. I just kept saying the words, please trust the process, and allowed them they let us make some changes. We accomplished the changes. I think we did it for under $7,000, but other agents had given them a price of around $460 for the house. So we spent about $7,000. What's the pointed anywhere? Wait. Oh, there we go. So this is the after picture. And we just sold this in one day for $515,000, which set a record in the neighborhood. We painted the cabinets, we changed the hardware, put some new carpet in, changed all the light fixtures. That's all my staging furniture. I now have a 5,000 square foot warehouse with nearly $750,000 in furniture, art, light fixtures. That didn't happen overnight. That's been almost 11 years now of accumulating and purging and curating. And the cost of doing business is sometimes things wear out. And yes, we do stage houses that people live in. So the client is obviously over the moon. They trust us. They've already referred us to somebody. So it definitely shows that and I don't want the house to sit on the market a long time because my furniture is in it, right? So you want it to sell quickly. I want my furniture back. And we will do it, like I said, when they live there. So it works great. This is a house that was actually listed by a realtor who owned the house. So the seller is a realtor. And it was on the market for, I believe, 6 months. This is the before picture. That's our after. That's just showing you the exterior. This is the before of the living room. This is the after of the living room. This is the before of the dining room. They're a little bit tight in here. And there's the after of the dining room. We sold it one day on market for $35,000 more than he was at when he had it listed. So it definitely works. We honestly, the only money we spent here was some new light fixtures. That's it. Better photography, new light fixtures, marketing. So this is a realtor who could not sell his own house and called us. And I think we showed our value. And we received 7%. and we earned it. He saw that. He gets it. So when you can convert another realtor, that's always nice. There's the kitchen. This is a different, so this house here, this was on the market for a year with their friend. It sat for a year in Midtown, a long time. You'll see this is our after of the house. The before, after, and before and after. Sold in 2 days for about 20-some thousand more than they were down to previously after a year on market. So we always worry that Zillow remembers everything. I think people forget when they see this, and they want to see it, they want to walk in. People don't want to say, when you say, let's do a carpet allowance, that's the worst thing you can do. Just replace the carpet. Just change the lights. And I always say, Vince hears me all the time, but light fixtures are the fastest way to add value. But if you don't have a sense of design, let somebody else pick them out. I have 2 stagers. My son has a degree in construction management. He used to work for Kiewit. He now runs all of these projects that we do. My daughter's an intern. My dad helps us with all the flooring. He's 82 and still working with us. And so it takes way more people than we have realtors. And we've also learned, too, that a lot of people don't want to work this hard. So that's why the team is really small. So it takes a lot of work, and it takes a level of dedication that not everybody's comfortable with. But the results speak for themselves. And we keep a book of before and afters that we take with us to every listing appointment. And I don't think I've argued more than 2 times in the last year for the 7%. Once they see the book, they get it. Because I'm going to say, you don't think I can get 1, 2, even 3% more than those other pictures? Absolutely. We get more than that. So where we really show it is like on the first house, it had never been on the market. So how do I prove that I got more than somebody else? Well, the comps, what else they were told. But on the last 2, they were on the market. They didn't sell. One by a realtor. I can prove that I made a financial difference, and I more than covered my difference in commission. In some cases, I'm covering the entire side of like the buyer's commission. And you get to the point where when every single listing looks like this, and they do, whether they're $200,000 or we have an $8 million listing coming. And like for a listing like that,
it can't be in Omaha.
It is.
Wow. You're going to be really good if you sell a house for $8 million in Omaha.
It's a big one. But we brought in on that one, we're bringing in a high-end designer who's helping them finish. And so we make sure the finishes are where it needs to be $8 million. So every house is different. But I do tell my clients, we get the same stagers, the same movers, the same furniture. If you're 200,000 or 8 million, it's the same team of people. We're all doing the same thing. You're all valuable. And as you all probably realize too, sometimes those littler ones are the ones that are more apt to use you again or refer you, and you make them feel like they're super special, and you're spending a lot of time. And we have 2 stagers, a truck, movers, a whole team of people, but they see that, and then they're being touched a lot too. They're getting a lot of communication, so they're part of that.
I know we had you talk at one of our company events, and you offended most men. Do you want to say who should not pick out for the decorating and who should?
Yeah, so if you are a straight white man, you should not be choosing light fixtures.
So she pissed off 40% of the room and most
and it's no accident that my 2 full-time agents are gay men. So, although one of them, when he first started, he's been with me for 10 years. He's 30. So at 20 years old, we were just starting this process, and he goes, "I have a couch," and I'm like, "Oh, great, gay guy. It's going to be a great couch." He sends me a picture of the most alpha male frat house couch I've ever seen. Pleather, ultra suede. I'm like, "You're not gay." My husband will love that couch. So we get. I had a straight guy marry, goes, "Those lights you put in, no one's going to like them," and I'm like, "Trust me, they will." They usually end up saying, "You're right."
Thank you very much. One idea pops into my head that I've said, so often we talk about, because not all of us have the skill set Diane does, right? But get a stager, make the house magnificent, and we stage houses for sellers. But my question is, right, if we want to make it an easy, simple, stress-free transaction, enjoyable for buyers, why don't we have a stager come in when someone buys a house to help them understand where they should place furniture and how they should do things? Wouldn't that relieve stress and add value in the process when we talk about a buyer's proposition? Because that very, very rarely happens, right? So, guys, let's give them a big hand. And Jimmy, let's get up here for this next panel. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much.